The studio lights were blinding, the audience buzzing with laughter and anticipation. It was just another lively episode of The Steve Harvey Show, where the host's quick-wit and larger-than-life personality never failed to entertain. But on this day, something unexpected happened. It is something that would bring one of America's most beloved entertainers to tears, silencing the audience and leaving millions watching at home deeply moved. Steve Harvey had always been known as the man who could make anyone laugh, even in their darkest moments. He wore his humor like armor, using it to shield himself and others from pain. But behind that bright smile was a man who had weathered storms most people never saw. He had known poverty, homelessness, and failure long before he tasted success. And though he often shared bits of his story, no one truly knew the weight he carried until a man named John Kennedy stepped forward. That evening, Steve had just finished a light-hearted segment with a guest when the producers surprised him. The big screen behind him lit up, and a video message began to play. Steve, expecting a cheerful shout-out or maybe a funny prank, leaned back in his chair with a grin. But the moment John Kennedy's face appeared, the room shifted. John Kennedy wasn't a celebrity or politician. He was just an ordinary man, but he carried himself with quiet strength. His voice was steady, but his eyes glistened as he began to speak. "Mr. Harvey," John said, "you don't know me, but I know you. Not personally, but through your story. Years ago, when I was at my lowest, I stumbled across one of your interviews where you talked about sleeping in your car, about struggling to find your place in the world, and about how faith carried you through. You said something that night that I'll never forget. Sometimes, the blessing is on the other side of the struggle. You just have to keep pushing." Steve shifted uncomfortably in his chair. His smile faded. John's voice grew heavier. "At that time, my wife had just left me. I'd lost my job, and I was sitting alone in my apartment with a bottle in my hand, wondering if life was worth continuing. I thought I had nothing left. But then I watched you tell your story. For the first time, I saw that a man could be broken and still rise again. That night, I put the bottle down. I promised myself I'd fight, and because of that choice, I'm still here. I'm remarried now. I have a daughter, and I want you to know she has a father today because you didn't give up on yourself years ago." The audience fell silent. Steve sat frozen, his eyes wide, his lips trembling. He tried to blink back the tears, but they came anyway, streaming down his cheeks. For once, the man who always had the right words found himself speechless. His hand went to his mouth as if to steady himself, but it only revealed the rawness of his emotions. John's message continued, softer now. "Mr. Harvey, I just want to thank you. You'll never know how many lives you've touched just by being honest about your own. I'm one of them, and my little girl is too." By the time the video ended, Steve was openly weeping. The audience, equally moved, began clapping softly at first, then rising to their feet in a standing ovation. Steve wiped his eyes with his handkerchief, but the tears wouldn't stop. "You all don't understand," Steve finally choked out, his voice breaking. "You don't understand what that means to me. I used to pray every single night, asking God why I had to go through so much, why I had to suffer like I did, and now I know it wasn't just for me. It was so I could help somebody else. That man, that little girl, a broken bar, that's the reason. That's the reason right there." The crowd erupted, not in laughter this time, but in thunderous applause. It wasn't about comedy anymore. It was about truth, about pain, about redemption. After the show, Steve sat quietly in his dressing room, still wiping away tears. For years, he had given the world laughter, thinking that was his greatest gift. But that night, he realized his true gift was something far greater: hope. John Kennedy's message reminded him and everyone watching it that sometimes our greatest wounds become someone else's source of healing. Our scars tell stories that can guide others out of their own darkness. And as Steve Harvey closed that unforgettable show, he left his audience with words that echoed long after the cameras stopped rolling. Don't ever think your struggle is meaningless. Somebody out there is waiting for your story to save them. And when that moment comes, you'll understand why you had to go through it all. It was more than television. It was a reminder that lives can be changed, not by fame or fortune, but by the simple courage to keep going and the honesty to share the journey. That night, Steve Harvey cried a butt in his tears. The world found hope.